Okay. Hello, everyone. So I can start now. So in this lightning talk, I will be talking about something that is not talked about enough. That is documentation, and our recent achievement that you can check out in RHEL 7.1. So the title actually says it all in a sense. So I would do a little sidestep here and ask who of you have accessed product documentation, or specifically Red Hat product documentation before. So for the rest of you, then I can show you how you can find it. If you go to access.redhat.com and click the products and services link on top, then look to the right onto the knowledge headline. There is this label product documentation. If you have any feedback on how easy is it to find, please let me know. If you click it, you will get to the landing page where the products of Red Hat are listed, and on the left upper corner there is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. If you again click it, you will get to the landing page where you can see the splash page for different versions and for different domains, specific domains of that product. And as you can see on the right, for each book, there are several formats available, specifically HTML, single-page HTML, EPUB, and PDF. So from that, you can see that Red Hat already uses single-source publishing. But there is more to single-source publishing than use the source files and produce different file formats. One other thing you can do is to create or use the same source files to different content format, which is something we tried for RHEL 7.1. And we, as a use case, we use the Anaconda installer. So if you now fire up the Anaconda, you can see in the right top corner this help button, and it is now added to not only the welcome screen, but also the hub, every spoke, and even further screens. If you click the button, it will open the Yelp application that is used for GNOME Help. As a GNOME Help renderer, it can easily render a help from a single XML file. So if this seems underwhelming, it is because it was the whole point of it to make it very easy. So I will now briefly describe what was the necessary pre-processing on the doc side. So we are using DocBook XML. So we had to only do these three things: restructure the text so that each screen in Anaconda is described in a single XML file. Then remove the external links which are not supposed to work in Anaconda if you are reading the help. So we just replace them with an emphasized text. And we removed automatically the screenshots because they are also not necessary if you are directly working in that GUI. So these three simple things allowed us to repurpose the whole installation guide as you can see it on the customer portal and use it directly in the Anaconda installer. So my personal plan is to pursue the idea of repurposing the single source in documentation further, specifically for other Fedora or RHEL applications. And I will also be looking at man pages and local system help, the offline help in user shared doc. So if you have any tips, what you would like to see in GUI help, specifically, you can let me know, because everyone who can provide tips here on DevConf, I will take it with a higher priority. Otherwise, I will just choose whatever is most available. While I was the guy behind the idea, I would like to do a little shout out for Petr Bokoč, who is the installation guide maintainer, who took care of the details on the documentation side, and Martin Coleman, who is the Anaconda install developer, who is here, and who can maybe tell you a little something from the technical side.
actually to make it possible to show the help content in Anaconda, we had to, of course, add the button. Then we had to add the Yelp as a dependency of Anaconda, so it gets pulled in the installation environment. We get to fix some dependencies because Yelp took it dragged in about 30 megabytes of some GNOME help files, so that needed to be moved to another component. Also, we added support for localization. So if we have content in the future in multiple languages, that will work. And also, we helped the documentation team with packaging. So there is a package that contains these files. And what else? That was basically it. We added a button. We added a program that can show the help. And we helped the documentation guys to get the content in a format suitable for us. So other applications, if they want to do something like this, like an embedded help system that uses the already existing documentation, it's really not that difficult. It's just needed to be done.
It comes from the central Git repo where we are storing the actual source files. They just pull. Anaconda team, in this case, just pulls from our repo and takes the files as we are preparing them for a specific release. So that's the whole point of it is to increase the exposure of our documentation, because as a running joke is that no one actually reads our documentation. It's not actually true, but anyway, if we can easily repurpose the same files, the same content, the same text, so it is the way we want to go. So if you have any tips or any questions, you have like a few minutes.
I read the documentation and it's good, and I'm also impressed that Google finds it indexed.
Yeah, that's the infrastructure on the customer portal, which is connected to what we do. Yeah.
You wrote that you want to have the functional source for the HTML and man pages and whatever. The man pages have somehow strict format. So if you want to actually keep the same, you need to go from the man pages up, not down.
Yeah, I know. By mentioning man pages, I meant it as a future plan, where the steps or where the path from one format to another will not be as straightforward as this in this case, because Yelp can basically consume what we are producing for DocBook with no post-processing or pre-processing necessary. In man pages, it will be more of a tricky task. I know. So I have one more tip. I actually spoke with some of my friends here. So unless there are other tips, it seems that SE Linux will have its GUI component updated in a coming month. So it is possible that a new tool will be created. Maybe it will be named GUIs, like GUI SE, and it will also have possibly this integrated help. So if it ever materializes, you had it here first. Thank you for your attention.
Že bych potřeboval nastavit to písíčko, aby běželo na dvou monitorech. A nebo případně já si můžu někoho tady půjčit.
Jaký písíčko? Tady to?
No.
Jako bez slajdu to chceš? Nebo ty
Já
jen teďka pro sebe?
mám na webu, víš?
No to je jedno. Počítač jedna. Ne,
já to
ne.
nechci, ale z tohohle počítače. Já to chci z tohohle počítače.
Počkej, no, teď to musí jet. Počkej, jo, takhle. Takhle. Já, jak jsem, víš co, opačně byl, tak
Ono to zobrazuje to stejný, ale aby to zobrazovalo dva různý. Ono možná bude jednodušší, když já se od někoho půjčím laptop.
jo, to asi jo.
Určitě mi někdo laptop. Jenom si to mám dát. Už to máš zapnutý. Klidně VGAčko. Hello, can you hear me, guys? So what you seen was exactly what's not developer usability. That's basically, like as Vratislav said, some cloud stuff, doing things in behind. I have like one display here that acts as a remote for this computer, and like this simple stuff of moving slides back and forth is basically done via submitting TCP packets all over the network. My name is Václav Tunka, and I work as a senior software engineer for Red Hat. I'm working on JBoss EAP, which is the Java EE application server, but you won't need to have any middleware experience at all. I would like to talk about developer experience in this talk, obviously. My talk is inspired by today's lab that was led by Koen Ayers. It's about Forge, which is a tool that basically scaffolds your programs, whether you are a beginner developer or whether you are a senior developer and don't want to write a boilerplate code. And basically it reminded me like what are the typical problems that every developer hates. So basically I didn't use the Forge stuff before. It was the first time I had a chance to lay my hands on it. It's a really nice project, it gets the job done, but the thing is that it needs a lot of love with polishing the tiny bits and details. Basically, we all are developers or work with developers for developers. The thing is that we really suck in making UIs, and we know it. Hopefully, we learned that we have some guys that do UX that basically can do wireframes for us, usability studies, and then we have like guys who can basically transform the wireframes into something like HTML, CSS, graphics, mobile applications, or like mobile layouts. So we as developers don't need to take care about it. But actually, we need to take care about developer experience. So basically, why is it important? I hope that everyone knows in Red Hat that we need to really, take care about developers, and not even in Red Hat, but if you are doing any open source project, you need to place developers first, because without proper developer mindshare, we are lost. Developers are quite lazy. We are quite picky. We easily migrate if we are not satisfied with what we got, or if the company that has the project misbehaves. For example, you can, I guess you all know basically the case when Hudson was forked to Jenkins, or OpenOffice was forked, and so on. So basically the reward for a developer is that you can learn something new, that you basically receive expertise. That's a reward on its own. However, we need to basically reward developers in upstream, our contributors, for what we do. So what was the last time you guys screamed in front of the computer screen, basically dealing with some sucky software that some other developer wrote for you? For me it was today. We basically do really complex stuff, generic software platforms solving real world problems. But the thing is that even though the quality is quite good, we actually forget about tiny things, and tiny things really matter, and it can change your experience with the tool. That might as well mean that you will return to it, you will contribute to it, or you won't do any of it, and basically the upstream project is losing a lot of potentially good developers. So I mean, if you know about yourself that you are not the type who is good at finishing stuff, basically polishing technology, find some bachelor student, a diploma master student, or find like some upstream contributors who want some low-hanging fruit. Make it easy for them to start. I wanted to give you some examples of good developer experience. I think basically, in my opinion, that means that code is publicly hosted, whether it's in GitHub, Bitbucket, it's Fedora hosted Git, doesn't matter. I think what's important is basically to have a proper workflow, not to have like some mailing list where people randomly review stuff, where you generate a lot of patch files, that basically you need to regenerate all the time because you rebase against newer upstream. I will have a talk about that in the room upstairs. So if you are interested in the workflow stuff, please see my other talk. it's important to have like clear roadmap published on some dev mailing list, forum, wiki, or some publicly accessible source. And of course, like have IRC or like some other chat client. I guess like everyone is doing that now. And as my previous speaker said, documentation is really, really important, so please concentrate on that. I guess you all know Jenkins, which is the continuous integration server that's open source from the beginning. It used to be Hudson, right? And it's really used. If you don't use any other CI solution, please come to my other talk. I will talk about it that more. But I hope you are familiar with that. It's basically one of the most open upstream projects. Basically, everyone who submits a plugin, not even part of the core Jenkins stuff, receives push permissions. And it's not always really good because maybe you read about the Use the Force Lucas Candle. Basically, it was about the guy who was writing a book on Gerrit code review. And as he had the push permissions, he accidentally pushed the local copy, which was like 5 months or 6 months old, and rewrote all the upstream repositories. So I mean, like with the help of several maintainers, this was fixed. I mean, like nobody is perfect, right? So the open is not always like good to only to some extent, right? I wanted to give you like several things what I think. I mean, like this is my personal opinion. I'm not authority on this, but I mean, like if you are doing CLI, please, if something is loading, think about some semi-graphics, some rotating, slash or something that indicate that the thing is really responsive, that, so the developer doesn't wait for something. Provide programmatic APIs, so people are not bound to the CLI but can use other ways. Maintain the contract. Don't change the behavior. It's like the API compatibility stuff. Basically, most of the Linux developers are really good at this. In middleware, it's not really good. I mean, like people basically add functionality in micro releases or basically change API in minor releases, which we shouldn't do. And for the CLI, please like divide the outputs and use proper logging, use proper Linux Unix CLI. I mean, like this is mostly for the cloud guys and for middleware guys. If you are doing a desktop application, think of power users. They usually want to edit things outside the application. Please provide API for them so they can write their own tooling and think about modularity and plugin from the beginning, because people might want to extend your application and help you to make your life easier, so please enable them. And don't constantly change the UI. I mean, like this is especially targeted at GNOME developers. I know that like this is the more like developer experience and the UI is more like user experience thing, but please think about developers because we are quite picky. Generally, please look around you. If you are doing app that's similar to what some other upstream was doing, please have a look if they got some integration with other third-party tools, and if they did, please enable the third-party developers to use ideally very similar API to that. Maintain the contract and like don't package the world. Leverage the live systems that basically you have. And I think that with containers, we are all talking like containers are going to solve everything, but actually I think like this life cycle stuff is gonna get really messy or messier with containers. So this was just like a short talk on basically my opinions as like a developer consumer. So, if you have any questions, I think, because I will be skipping the second talk, we still have some time. Or it's not about questions, maybe you want to tell me something or like tell me your opinion. So please, now it's your time. Please.
Do you have any tips how to like work with the community to know their opinion about your stuff? Because you know what happened, for example, with the Anaconda installer. Many people are complaining about it, but truth to be told, the UI and user experience was all done ahead. And we tried to discuss it with everybody. Like everybody was free to tell us, like, oh guys, this sucks. You cannot have this button here, or you cannot have this. And well, like that basically happened. And now people are complaining, which is kind of silly, I think. So do you have tips how to like, better handle
Yeah, so I mean, like the question was basically, it was about Anaconda installer when the guys did some UX review, and basically the community was involved all the time. And question is how to basically manage the expectations, how to work with community. If I understand it correctly, is that right?
How to make people tell you their opinion like ahead.
Yeah.
Complaining when you do something.
Yeah, I mean, like this is more like a UX question. I'm not like expert on that, but from the projects that we started or that I started, I think that it's really crucial from the beginning to define like what's your audience, what you are solving, and then basically work with the UX team from the beginning. Usually, it's that you are choosing a name for the project, so community can participate in creating names. Then you are basically doing some kind of like, you know, what the tool will provide, some wireframes, and again, community can define like features or bug fixes they would like, and basically it's good to, it depends like how big is the community. If it's really big, I think maybe some poll, you know, is the best, and the UX team should help you with that. And basically then it's up to you to do the evangelism, to, you know, talk about it on social networks, on mailing lists, you know, engage your colleagues, and basically spread the word, right? But I mean, like developer or the usability team should help you with it. And I mean, like the recipe for that, I guess, is to be really honest and open with the community. What you can do, what you can't do, because, you know, they can have like some false expectations, and it's never good to like let the developers down because they might not return next time. Did it answer your question? Anyone else? Please.
Your skip speech, will it be repeated?
My skip speech, it depends. I mean, like if people are interested, I wanted to talk about Wildfly developer meeting. So, you know, if you could just quickly raise your hands so I know that you are interested in the future. So that's 3 guys. So I think like we can do some, you know, session like just 3 of us, or, you know, I can make some recording available or some video cast, whatever. So also some people can participate from, you know, who are not so lucky to be here with us. Any other question or comment? If not, thank you very much for your attention.
Hey, hello everybody. There is a new module in Python 3.4 called async.io, and some people have trouble understanding what it does. So I wanted to explain one part of it, the async part, in 5 minutes. It was for a different Lightning Talk format. So, no. This should be. Is it readable? Okay, so this is Blinky, and here's the code for Blinky. So it's just a class that has some init, has some string. I can make it a little bigger, this one at least. Is that okay? Those are important. Those are important. You can move forward if you want. So it has a set face, which sets a new string to this. And then it has a run, which has a loop that basically alternates between the two states. So pretty easy. There's a print function it calls. The problem is our Blinky is lonely. There's only one Blinky. So for a second version of this program, we have many Blinkies. What changed here is that we have a print function that prints all of them, and we have a list. And we start a thread for every one of them. Right? So we have 15 threads running, all doing the same thing, all of them blinking randomly. So this is the kind of the usual way how you have several threads of control in a program. You use threads. It's easy. Every operating system has it. The problem with threads is that they're not really synchronized. You need to synchronize them yourself. So in our case, let's say we install a new enterprise-ready print Blinkies 2.0 function that we have here, which does some extra stuff between printing each Blinky, right? So it sleeps for a little time, and in this time it sleeps, other threads have a chance to come in and start printing their own Blinkies, and basically they mess everything up. So it looks a bit like this. So while we're sleeping, other threads overwrite everything. It's very bad. So this is one problem with threads. You can't specify when the thread is doing something that needs to be together. Another thread can't come in and do something else. You can do that with logs. The problem with logs is you have to always remember when to use logs, and when you don't use a log, then you're not likely to find the bug until in production under a heavy load. Like this previous version also probably has this bug, but it's not easy to show it without the wait. So what things like Node.js or the Twisted framework at Python do is use callbacks. And there's an event loop running that basically runs one function at a time. So we open the eyes and then say, hey, event loop, after some time, there's this sleep. So this says run a sleep task, and after that sleep task is done, after a few seconds or milliseconds pass, then call this other function. So if you know Node.js, then you probably know this. The problem with this is that we have two functions here that are, from our point of view, they should be a loop. And they look nothing like a loop. This is just a simple example. If you have ifs and loops and you have a complicated program and you need to make a new function at each point you sleep or each point you get some data from the network, then it gets pretty hairy and nobody can understand it. And that's where Async.io's model comes in. So the Async.io version would look like this. So we have what's called a coroutine. We have a loop like in the first version. And we use this yield from statement, which is just some magic saying while this is running, then other threads can, or other coroutines can come in and do their own thing. So we know that we kind of explicitly say that here's a point where we won't be synchronized, where somebody else is doing something. So unlike logs and threads, it's explicit and we see it, and it's easy to find the bugs in here. So what this does is it interrupts the execution of the coroutine, gives other scheduled ones a chance to run, and after this is done, then it returns back and resumes. So that's basically what the async part in async.io does. Every async framework from Node.js to Twisted to async.io does pretty much the same thing, just scheduling events on an event loop, and the sealed from is just a nifty syntax that makes a loop look like a loop. And I think JavaScript is getting it as well in the new versions. So thank you. If you have any questions. Thanks.
So hi, my name is Wojciech. I work in Red Hat in install team, and I'd like to tell you something about my project called Blivet GUI. If you are a little familiar with Anaconda installer, you might know the word Blivet. It's a Python library that does storage configuration in Anaconda. And this is the Blivet GUI application, and it's just a GTK graphical user interface for Blivet. It started last year. It's now about a year as my school project. So this is great excuse if you think something is totally idiotic. It's just school project. Patch is welcome. And as I said, it's based on Anaconda Blivet library. And now it supports basic partitioning, LVM, and software rate and Btrfs configuration. But there are still a lot of functions missing, like advanced features like LVM rate, tint provisioning, Btrfs snapshots, etc. If you'd like to help, it's on GitHub. I know nobody wants to help, but I need to tell. Yeah. This is how it looks like when you try to add some new Btrfs volume. You can choose also for multiple disks, size for every disk, write type, etc. name, just easy. I tried to use the GUI looks like gparted, you might know, so many users can be familiar with how to use it. Yeah. The one nice feature I like is you can use the Blivet GUI to create kickstart files. So if you don't like the way how Anaconda does manual partitioning, you can run Blivet GUI on your computer or from live CD. It's not in Fedora yet, but you can install it. Run it, do all the configuration, and instead of writing the changes to disk, create Kickstart file and run Anaconda, and then without configuration. Everything is transaction-based, so the changes are not written in the disk immediately. You can do all the configuration and then in the end write the changes. The Blivet GUI is also embeddable to another applications. It was the original intention, so maybe in the future for Anaconda it would be possible to open Blivet GUI, do the configuration, and without the Kickstart creation. Little problem is I used GTK plug and GTK socket functions, but they are using Xembed protocol, so it doesn't work on Wayland. So if there's someone from GTK, please try to update the GTK plug and socket functions classes to be usable on Wayland too. So if you'd like to test it, I have a Copr repository for Fedora 20 and Fedora 21. Now it's also available in Rawhide, and I hope it will be soon available in Fedora 21. It's now in Fedora updates. I'm missing one karma point, so if you'd like to test it. And I was really surprised. About months ago, somebody contacted me and packaged it for Arch Linux, so it's available in OR. And already the newest version, like the newest version is about 10 days old, and it's already in Arch Linux. Yeah. Oh, this was very short. I expected it to be about 5 minutes, so thank you, it was all. If you want to contact me. And I hope you have some questions, because we have plenty of time. No, Vratislav, not you.
Okay. What are the dependencies besides the Blivet library?
The Blivet library. Okay. These are all direct dependencies, but Blivet itself depends on PyKickstart, Python PyBlock, and some another. It doesn't depend on Anaconda, if you are asking. Yeah, it's about.
You probably have it all installed anyway.
Yes.
For some reason.
Everything is in Fedora repositories. I tried to package it for Ubuntu because I was using Ubuntu for a long time. Yes, but I get stuck in packaging all the dependencies. The making dep packages is quite painful, so not for now.
So you consider RPMs easier?
Yes, definitely. Okay, it took me about, I don't know, 1 week to start how to do RPMs and use Copr. And I've been using Ubuntu for like 7 years, and I was not able to make the packages for PyKickstart, so.
Thanks. Can I just clarify though, that a week to create an RPM still seems like a long time. Maybe we can fix RPM.
It was RPM plus Copr, so it's.
Or I guess it takes way too much work to make an RPM.
Okay, to make an RPM and to make it like kind of good RPM, and yeah, there's difference.
Yeah, we can try to make an RPM work. There's another talk about it, right?
So, yes?
Is it possible to launch all Kickstart files and then edit them, or is it only?
No, now it's not possible to load the Kickstart file, but Blivet has the possibility to load Kickstart files, so it's one of the features I can add in the future. Yes, yes, Matthew?
Have you considered making a GUI mode that looks and feels like the Anaconda storage GUI, which I know that there's some negative feedback on, but it also is actually pretty well designed and nice for what it does.
Yeah, this was like, I can switch back to the first slide with the screenshot. This was like my first try of writing a GUI in GTK, so yeah, it might change in the future. So.
Yeah, I wanted to say it looks like something I've seen
On Windows?
a few years ago.
Yeah, I tried to look like it's like gparted, because I like gparted and I think it's really straightforward to use it. But yeah, with the LVM and rates, it's quite messy now. So.
I also wanted to have something complementary for the Anaconda GUI, because the original idea behind using GTK sockets and things like was that you could have both of these GUIs in Anaconda, so that you can choose if you want to
Yeah.
build it
I'm
like
a
the
grumpy
top-down.
reviewer button they could click. This mode, and then it would say, see, we told you the other one was better.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea.
Yes.
One quick question I had is, do you, because I know it's transactional, like most of this kind of software, it's like you make
Yeah.
other changes and then it goes.
Yes.
Can you show the proposed view? So right here you have graphical elements that show you how big the disks are, right?
Yes.
If I make all the changes, do I see what it's gonna look like?
No. Yes, it changes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you add some partition, it's directly here. Yeah, it's copy of your current storage.
Yeah,
So
it'll show you what the new one's gonna look
yes,
like. Yeah, okay.
but there's no diff like show me
Yeah,
the
okay.
difference between new and old. Yes.
It's one of the to-dos as well.
Okay.
Yes. So no more questions? Yeah, so I have one more questions because when we first announced it, everybody asked why we created something new. So it was like very frequent question.
So why are you creating something new?
Thanks, great question. Yeah, so the answer is simple. This is not new. Yeah, this is just a graphical user interface, and the Blivet library is here for like 3 years, and it was part of Anaconda for like, I don't know, 10 years? Forever. So yes. For example, the difference between writing Blivet GUI and enhancing gparted to be able to work with LVMs, it's just uncomparable. Yeah, just GUI versus creating new backend. So, if it's no more questions, so thanks.
Okay, guys, can you hear me? Oh, I can hear myself, so it's probably okay. So, my name is Vratislav, and I want to tell you a little bit about how I dealt with creating bindings for what I had to do, because Vojta just introduced the very high-level thing that is a Blivet GUI. It is a GDK application. Then there is Blivet, which is a Python library, and then there you need to have something that provides you things like LV create, because you don't want to have in a GDK application, you don't want to be calling LVM and taking care of the parsing of the output and things like that. So this was all part of Blivet, and we decided that maybe we could rewrite this very low-level part into C, so that it can be usable by other projects and something like that can be shared, because everybody has to deal with parsing the LVM output because they don't have a real API, so does Btrfs. So we decided to write a library for that. So I had a problem that I wanted to have bindings for as many languages I could get, and from working on Anaconda, I know that GTK does it pretty nice, because for GTK, since it supports so-called G-object introspection, you get bindings for many, many languages, ranging from Python to Haskell, and being JavaScript and everything, this is in the middle. So I decided that maybe I could use G-object introspection too and get those bindings for free. So my problem was that I didn't actually want to write an object-oriented programming code, because for things like LV create, it's a simple function. Like you take a volume group and a name of the LV and the size, and just do the right thing and then maybe return some error and true, false, like was it successful? So I didn't want to end up in something like Java, like I don't know, LVM manager dot LV create and things like that. It wasn't really necessary. So I tried to use GObject introspection on a non-GObject code, and it turned out it works. I was asking many people working on the GObject introspection if I could do that and if it's supported, and they said, hell no. And I was like, oh, but do you guys know that it works? And they were like, oh, yeah, it might work, but it probably won't work too long. Like, if you do something a little bit different than you are doing, it will probably stop working. So I decided to give it a try because I really wanted to avoid all this GObject thing because it's a hell of a lot of a code that you need to do something really like boilerplate code. So I give it a try, and I can tell you that it really works. The only thing that you have to do is to use the glib types. So instead of int, you need to use gint, like glib int, and all these types. And so you can write a code, and then there is a GIR scanner tool that you run on your sources, and it produces an XML file that describes all the calls, all the parameters, and everything that is needed for example, Python or Java or whatever to run your C code. It's like a metadata about the code. And then there is a GIR compiler, and that takes that XML and produces a binary form of that XML so that it can be easily loaded from Python and things like that. So that's all you need. Run 2 tools, and then you instantly get your bindings for Python, Haskell, Java, JavaScript, whatever, and you can have everything written in C. So it's not entirely for free, as the topic of the lightning talk says, but I think it's very cheap. So far so good. It worked. Everything worked really great, and I was really happy that I don't have to do anything on top of this to get these bindings. Because, for instance, I wanted to write my tests in Python because I really hate writing tests in C. It's really hard to do some basic unit testing, and very soon gets really complicated. So I wanted to have my tests in Python. So the first problem I hit was that it's okay if your functions are returning Boolean and strings and ints. There's no problem because the Python just takes the value, maybe creates a copy of it, and shows it to the user, and it knows how to use these very basic types. But for things like I don't know, LV info, you run it on an LVM LV, and you want to get some multiple values. Typically in C, it's a struct. And so when you have a struct, it gets more complicated because the Python, maybe it knows about the fields of the struct, what type these are or something like that, if you get that introspection data into it. So that's not a problem. But the Python or any other language, mainly the dynamic languages, needs to know how to create a copy of the data and then how to free the memory of the data if it wants to get rid of it. So this is the second part, and it's like, both these things I'm showing you, there are blog posts on my blog, which is running in OpenShift, by the way, and so you can just check the rest of it. And the second part is a minimalistic example of the glib's gbox type usage, which is something I was like searching for on Google, and I didn't find any easy example of what I needed. So I wrote this blog post. And it's basically about a very simple thing. You have a C struct, and you want to add these little bits to allow Python working with it. So create a copy and free it. And that's everything you have to do. Write these 2 functions to copy the struct and to free it. So I can show some very basic example. This is the this is the header file for something that I call test data. Here you can see the field. It says it's a string item 1 and string item 2. This is a little bit of boilerplate that you need to have for the scanner to work, because you need to register that type into glib GObject type framework, or whatever I could call it. So this is something you have to do, and once you provide these two functions, the test data copy and test data free, you are done, and you can use these things like maybe I can. Yeah, this is the last missing piece. You have to define this function, test data get type, because that's how glib works or GObject works. It needs to get the type of your data. So you just call gboxed type register static, which takes the name of that you want to export, like name of the type, the function to copy the data, and the function to free data. And this is like just like a macro that this won't happen too often. So these three things are everything you need to provide, and then run the scanner, and instantly you can take this data in Python, you can assign it, you can take the values from the struct, and once you hit Ctrl-D and exit the Python shell, it doesn't segfault. Because if you don't do that, it segfaults, because it gets some data it doesn't know how to free. So this is everything you need to do. These are the examples of how to compile the code as a shared library. Then with the LD library path, you run the scanner, it produces an XML file, and then you run the compiler. And of course, if you then run Python, you need to set LD library path so that it can find your library. And the GI typelib path is a path that tells the GI repository or GObject introspection code where to search for these typelib files. And so this is the example usage. You just import it, you create a new instance, you set the values, you can read them, and if you provide a method or a function that is something like a constructor, you can just create a new instance and passing the attributes. And what is nice, if you use IPython and you just enter td2 dot and hit tab, it supports the introspection, so you can see the fields and whatever. So whenever you are asked to write a library, maybe think about how to make the possible usage of that library as wide as possible, because you never know who comes and who wants to use your code. And it's like, for example, a problem of Blivet is that it's written in Python. I cannot imagine it being written in C, because it's already, I don't know, tens of thousands of lines of Python, so it would probably be hundreds of lines of C. That would be crazy, and with many, many, many more bugs. So if you do something new, maybe you could start with C, and to avoid all this GObject boilerplate stuff, just remember that you have to use glib types, and maybe write these tiny little functions, and you are done. You get all those bindings very cheaply. Okay, so that's all from me. If you have any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer. Okay?
Question. Why did you call it Blivet, which means something that's impossible to exist?
Because, yeah, that answer is pretty simple, actually. Because what Blivet is trying to do is that it supports all this enterprise storage. Like, I have this iSCSI and I want to create an MD RAID of it and LVM on top of it and things like that. So it's one end. And the other end is the user that comes and says, hey, I have this machine and I want to set up all this stuff on it. Like, work as I want to. So I want to have my data mirrored, I want to be network available and things like that. So these are the two ends that Blivet tries to somehow connect, and that we consider impossible. So it is called Blivet, which is some imaginary things that interconnects two things that cannot be connected. Any other questions? Out of time, so feel free to ask me whenever we meet here or somewhere else.
ukážku 5 minutám, pak out of time, otázky jsou v rámci 10 minut.
So, hi. Just to check if I'm speaking in front of the right audience, please raise your hand who has ever tried to write any line of code in Eclipse. Okay, perfect. Who was disappointed? Cool. And who is working daily with large code bases in any IDE? Thanks. Okay, so I'm at the right place here, and I hope you will learn important information from me. To show what we have in the present days Eclipse, let's take Gating Portal, which is my primary occupation, as an example. It's quite an old project with 10 years of history. And to get it into Eclipse, we just have to git clone and import it as a bunch of Maven projects. In the next step, I'll just show you what appears if you do it in Eclipse. You are basically presented with this long list of projects that are sorted alphabetically. We can try to count them. It's 109 projects. At the file system level, it's actually much more better. We have here how many? 14 top-level folders, which are actually modules, and they actually mirror the logical structure of the whole project. And if I need to do something in CDI, I know I need to go into that folder and find my classes, change them, and whatever. In Eclipse, if I want to do something with CDI, how do I find CDI? I know that this Package Explorer had a feature that when I start typing, it should find something, but it doesn't find anything when I need CDI. So I can scroll down, and in the 109 items, I can try to find what I'm looking for. CDI here. And there are many more issues with how it's presented in Eclipse. For example, here, this parent actually contains context and injection, and I'm presenting with the same thing once again here. So actually this project is this folder, and when I would be searching for things, I would find them twice as well. However, it's only a single item in the file system. So as you can see, the situation is quite catastrophic, and to make it even worse, imagine you have to import another related project with a couple of modules into a workspace, and Eclipse will mix them together, and you will never know if that particular module is from one or the other source, and so on. So Eclipse is old. Eclipse is has the biggest share. I think it's still about over 60% in Java developing. The second one, IntelliJ, is something about 35. I'm not sure. So actually, Eclipse developers must have found some kinds of workarounds for this problem. Can anybody of you name any workaround? So the first workaround offered by Eclipse is so-called working sets. If you activate them, you get one more level of organization where you can manually put your modules like this, drag and drop. I hope it works. No, it doesn't. One has to configure it somewhere in some kind of dialog. Anyway, it's manual, and if my colleague tomorrow adds another module in CDI, I won't see it here. I have to find it and put it where I want to have it in my workspace. Another possible workaround is naming conventions, which you can see actually here. It helps to keep the modules in order. It doesn't help to compress them together to find them better. But if you happen to have colleagues in your team who work with IntelliJ, they will laugh at you that you want them to follow this kind of conventions just because Eclipse is that bad at presenting large code bases. There are some more workarounds, but none of them helps really. But the aim is actually clear. We want this, what we have at the file system level. It's because that's how we think, how we organize our projects. Now to get more optimistic, Eclipse is an open source project with well-defined processes, and basically anybody can come and propose any improvement. And two guys from JBoss Tools team have sat down and looked what are the possibilities, and they started experimenting in their playground repository, where they did an experimental plugin named Nestor. They have shown it within the community, and one must say that it's astonishingly simple and technically elegant. Because it uses APIs that are already available in this view called Project Explorer. So basically, at the user level, what they did was just they added this little menu where one can switch to the hierarchical presentation, and voila, we are getting what we wanted. Oh shit! Sorry, that's what I've shown. This change was already accepted and has appeared in a milestone number 5 that was released yesterday. So we are strongly encouraged to go and try. Send feedback, file bugs, and so on. What is still missing? The search view is still showing results. As I said, that the same thing will be found twice. And there's no change planned for Package Explorer, because Package Explorer is using some kind of older or no APIs. That's basically it. Thank you.
Dobrý timing.
Test. Okay. So hello, my name is Martin Kollmann. I work for Red Hat, and I would like to welcome you to my lightning talk about writing Python applications for Android with a Qt Quick UI. So, well, what will I be talking about? Like why I'm doing this? Because Android is horrible, so why I'm doing these crazy things to make Python applications run there. Then I'll talk about what's needed for this to be done. Then how to do it, which segments of steps you need to take to reach the end of this. Also, I'll tell you that this is something that's already usable for making applications, not just like something, yeah, we got something running. And also, I present a set of resources for further study for this. Actually, going back, these slides are available here on this URL, and it will be also visible on the last page of the slides. The URL has these slides and also an example Python application APK, so people with Android devices can try it out. So, okay, I'll continue. So, I just wanted to be able to reach these hundreds of million people with Android devices while using a sane programming language and UI library, not the crazy Java stuff on Android. Also, while using it's Java, and it's not a Java not the normal one. It's like the Android Java, and it's using some crazy XML, well, whatever. So I wanted to use a fast and powerful UI library that can support Android, that supports the Android quirks and works reliably. And I wanted the end result to be a easily installable APK package without any external dependencies or without needing the users to do some extra steps. So what's needed? You need to, of course, Python, and of course Android has no Python. Android doesn't have really anything already present. So you need to compile Python statically for Android, and you need to bundle it with your application in the APK. Then you need some graphic library, and the only real candidate is the Qt5. Fortunately, they officially support Android, so you need to bundle this too, but fortunately you don't need to compile it. It's already compiled. And the next component is the PyOtherSide Python to Qt Quick bindings. I talked about this last year, so you can check my last year's talk about this very interesting project. So you'll compile PyOtherSide against your Android Python build and against Qt5 for Android, and you bundle it. And the last thing is your application. So you don't need to compile it, at least you just bundle it with the rest. And this is actually what you do to make this happen. So first you download some unofficial Python 3 build that's known to work at the moment, and you compile it whole Python 3 for Android using the Android NDK. Then you statically compile PyOtherSide against this Android Python build and against the Qt graphical library. So you get 15 megabytes of SO file that has inside Python 3. And you also, that's just the Python runtime. Then you need to give the standard library. So we use the trick, there is a trick used that Python can actually import directly from zip files. So you make a zip file and you compile it in using Qt resources into this SO file. So it has both Python and the Python standard library as a zip file. Currently, the zip file is extracted on first run and added to the Python path, basically. So the standard library is loaded from it dynamically. But the other-side developer, he is looking for ways to basically map it to memory, so it would not need to be extracted. Then when you have this SO file, you need to put it somewhere where the Qt SDK can find it when you reference it in your application. So you just find where your Android Qt SDK is installed and put it in the correct way. And then you basically just create a Qt Quick application using a template in the Qt for Android SDK. It will find this library from your imports in your QML files, and it will bundle it. So also Python, and it will bundle your Python and Qt Quick files. And in the end, you have a standalone APK file of about 30 megabytes, and it consumes only like 60 once installed, which is a big improvement actually. I did some experiments before with Qt 4, and yeah, this is better. Actually, this is a really short summary of how this is done. There is a full guide linked down there, and yeah, it's much crazier actually. This is just a short summary, but it's crazy, but it works. There's already an application, not a trivial one. It's a podcast player, and called Gpodder, which is quite an application with quite a long history, and it's available already on Google Play. So everyone can actually try the real Python application running on Android device. And there's already a second one, the Modrana Flexible Navigation System, which is my hobby project I've been working on for years. And it's not yet available in Google Play, but you can easily download an APK from this URL. If it worked, it's not working for some reason at the moment, but should be fixed soon. But you can get it from the folder linked at the start. I also want to publish it eventually. So this is the resources page. There is the link to these slides and some other resources. And this is also the last page. So if you have any questions. Yep.
Do you know a full list of libraries and their versions that you're bundling?
Actually, yes.
And what suggestions would you have for developers using this to keep track of all of the bundled stuff? Because I'm assuming the Python that you build actually includes some zlib or other, additional bundled libraries from other projects. So it's kind of chain bundle stuff.
Well,
if one of them is a CVE, how will you know? Do you monitor all of the upstream already on Android CVE?
Yeah, it will mean that Android has like another CVE on the pile they already have.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, basically, I didn't really check, but that's a good question. It's something to improve in the future. What would really help with this is if there was official Python build for Android. But there is nothing like it. It's a small miracle that it was possible to find a working Python 3 build actually. So it would really help if you could get this is a Python build for Android, and we will tell you if there is a problem and you need to update it. Currently, you basically I compiled it on Fedora, so if I see a relevant CVE, I should regenerate the package. That's the problem. On the other hand, also the applications on Android are quite separated, so it could cause damage, but it really depends on the application, and the damage should be limited, hopefully. Yep. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, like we can meet. Yep.
Isn't it crazy to have 30 mega FPGA for Android?
This is unfortunately happens quite often because all these like PhoneGap and all these frameworks you use for multi-platform applications, they do basically the same thing. And Android has no dependency support at all. So if you want to use something else than the default stuff, you need to do that, unfortunately. Okay, thanks. Yep.
All right, this talk is participatory, so I expect answers when I ask questions.
It's not supposed to work that way.
Oh, well, see, if I didn't, then I would have to actually know the answers beforehand. So instead, what I do is I use the audience to solve the problem. Sure.
It's already on.
Sorry.